The wanderer returned to the forest moon 3 weeks later. Lisa stood at the viewport in her quarters and watched the green world grow larger as they descended. Her shoulder had healed completely, leaving only 3 distinctive scars where the adult Vrexian had bitten her. The marks glowed faintly in the dark, just like the crystalline patterns on the cub's spine. She was different now in ways that went beyond the physical. Her reflection in the mirror showed amber flecks in her eyes that had not been there before. Her movements were quieter, more controlled. She could hear conversations from 3 decks away if she focused. And every night she dreamed of running through forests with a pack at her side. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. Jake stood in the corridor with his arms crossed. He looked uncomfortable, like he was not sure how to treat her anymore. "Captain wants you on the bridge," he said. "We've picked up signals from the surface." Vrexian signals. Lisa's heart jumped. "They came back?" "Looks like it. A small group. Could be the same ones that attacked us." Jake's hand rested on his weapon. "Are they dangerous to us now? Or did you make some kind of peace?" "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "The connection I have with the cub tells me emotions, not specific information. But I don't sense hostility. I think they're trying to communicate." On the bridge, Captain Helen was studying the sensor readouts. The settlement they had found before was now showing signs of activity. Heat signatures? Movement. Someone or something had returned to the abandoned buildings. "We're picking up a broadcast on multiple frequencies," the communications officer reported. "It's definitely Vrexian, but I can't translate it." "Let me hear it," Lisa said. The bridge speakers crackled to life. Strange sounds filled the air, a combination of chirps and growls and something that might have been words. To most of the crew it was just noise, but Lisa felt the meaning behind the sounds through her enhanced senses. "They're calling for me," she said quietly. "The cub is down there. It wants to see me again." Helen turned to face her. "This could be a trap. They could be using your connection to lure us in." "Maybe, but I don't think so. The Vrexians operate on pack loyalty. I helped return their young. That creates a bond in their culture. A debt. Debts can be repaid with violence, or with friendship." Lisa moved to stand beside the captain. "Let me go down there alone. If they wanted to hurt us, they could have attacked the ship already." "Absolutely not. You're too valuable to risk. I'm the only bridge between our species. That means I need to take risks that others can't." Lisa met Helen's eyes steadily. "You know I'm right." Helen stared at her for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Take Sullivan and a security team. Stay in communication at all times. First sign of danger, you get out of there. Clear?" "Clear." The shuttle descended through layers of purple clouds. Lisa sat in silence while Jake and his team checked their weapons nervously. They had fought the Vrexians before and barely survived. Going back down to meet them willingly felt like suicide, but Lisa was not afraid. Through her connection with the cub, she could feel anticipation and excitement. The little one was happy she was coming, and the adults, while cautious, were not hostile. They landed in the same clearing as before. The forest looked different now, more alive. The trees seemed to lean toward the settlement instead of away from it. As if the world itself knew the Vrexians had returned, Lisa stepped off the shuttle first. The air smelled the same, copper and flowers mixed together, but now she could detect other scents beneath. The musk of Vrexian adults, the particular smell of the cub, fresh kill somewhere nearby. The security team fanned out around her, weapons raised. Jake stayed close to Lisa's side, his eyes scanning the forest for threats. "Where are they?" he whispered. "Watching us," Lisa replied. She could sense the Vrexians in the trees, hidden but present. "They're deciding if we're safe. That's our line." Lisa smiled slightly. "Not anymore. Movement in the shadows." The cub emerged from between the buildings, moving with the confident grace of a young predator. It had grown in the 3 weeks since Lisa last saw it. Not much larger, but definitely stronger, more sure of itself. The cub chirped and ran toward Lisa. Jake raised his weapon, but Lisa pushed it down. "Don't," she said firmly. The cub reached her and pressed its head against her legs, purring like an enormous cat. Lisa knelt down and ran her hands through its black fur. The crystalline patterns along its spine glowed brighter at her touch. "I missed you too," she murmured. 3 adult Vrexians emerged from the forest. Jake's team tensed, fingers on triggers. The massive creatures moved with careful steps, clearly trying not to appear threatening. But their size and presence were intimidating regardless of intent. One of the adults, the same one that had bitten Lisa in space, approached slowly. It stopped a few meters away and lowered its head in what might have been a gesture of respect. Through her connection, Lisa felt the creature's intention. It wanted to show her something. Something important. "They want me to follow them," Lisa said to Jake. "No way. We're not splitting up the team. I'm not asking for permission." Lisa stood up and moved toward the adult Vrexian. "Keep the shuttle ready. I'll be back." "Dr. Morgan, that's an order." Lisa looked back at him. Her eyes glowed faintly amber in the shadows of the forest. "I don't take orders from you, Commander. Not anymore. I'm something different now." She followed the adult Vrexians into the settlement. The cub walked beside her, occasionally rubbing against her leg. The buildings were no longer empty. Vrexian markings covered the walls, fresh and deliberate. This was claimed territory now. They led her to the large building at the center, the same place where she had first found the cub. But the interior had been transformed. The dust was gone, the broken furniture removed. In the center of the room was something that looked like an altar or a shrine. On the altar lay 3 objects. The first was a piece of crystalline material that glowed with inner light. The second was what looked like a weapon, organic in design but clearly functional. The third was a collar made of woven fibers and small bones. The adult Vrexian gestured toward the objects with one massive paw. Through the connection, Lisa understood. These were gifts, offerings, symbols of acceptance into the pack. The crystal was a piece of their homeworld. The weapon was for protection. The collar was a mark of belonging. Lisa picked up the collar with trembling hands. It was light despite its appearance and warm to the touch. When she held it, she felt the consciousness of every Vrexian in the pack. They were accepting her, making her one of them. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why would you do this?" The answer came not in words but in feelings. Because she had saved their young. Because she had chosen to understand instead of destroy. Because she had become the bridge between worlds that both species desperately needed. Lisa put on the collar. It fit perfectly around her neck, settling into place like it had always been there. The moment it touched her skin, the connection deepened. She was not just linked to the cub anymore. She was linked to the entire pack. Their thoughts, their emotions, their very essence flowed through her, and her thoughts flowed to them. They saw humanity through her eyes, saw that humans could be fierce and gentle at the same time, could be predators and protectors, could learn and adapt and change. Understanding passed between species in a way that language never could have achieved. Lisa returned to the shuttle an hour later. Jake and his team were visibly relieved to see her alive, but they stared at the collar around her neck with uncertainty. "What happened in there?" Jake asked. "Everything changed," Lisa said simply. "We need to get back to the ship. I have a lot to explain." On the Wanderer, Lisa stood before Captain Helen and the senior staff. She wore the Vrexian collar openly, no longer hiding what she had become. "The Vrexians want to negotiate," she said. "They want to establish peaceful relations with humanity. They've seen through me that we're not so different from them. We're both predators, both survivors, both capable of terrible violence and incredible compassion. Can we trust them?" Helen asked. "Can they trust us?" Lisa countered. "We both have bloody histories. We've both destroyed others to survive. But maybe it's time to try something different." Paul spoke up from his seat. "The parasite in your system, the connection it created. Could it work for others? Could we create more bridges? Maybe, but it would require volunteers willing to be changed forever, willing to become something between human and Vrexian." Lisa touched her collar.
"It's not an easy path."
"You lose part of what you were, but you gain something too. Understanding that goes deeper than words." "And the attacks on those 3 civilizations?" Jake's voice was hard. "How do we justify making peace with murderers? The same way those civilizations should have justified sharing resources with a dying species," Lisa replied. The Vrexians asked for help. They were refused. They took what they needed to survive. Was it right? No. Was it understandable? Yes. She moved to the viewport and looked out at the stars. "We're out here exploring, claiming worlds, taking what we need. How are we different? Only in the story we tell ourselves about being civilized. But civilization is just another word for the pack. We protect our own and fear the outsiders." "So what do you suggest?" Helen asked. The conference room on the horizon was full of worried people. Captain Daniel Brooks sat at the big table. Dr. Helen Carter sat next to him, looking at her computer tablet. Greg Bennett sat across from them, his arms crossed tight over his chest. Through the window, they could all see the cargo bay. Lucy sat there with the 3 dragon cubs around her. She was reading them a story from a picture book. "Tell me again how a 6-year-old child got past our security systems," Daniel said. His voice was tired. Helen pushed her glasses up and looked at her data. "She did not, Captain. The cubs did it. They turned off the energy fields themselves. The power records show a special pulse coming from inside the pods. These creatures are much smarter than we thought." "Then why are they sitting there listening to a story?" Greg asked. He watched his daughter through the window, worry clear on his face. "Because of her," Helen said quietly. "I have been watching their body signs for 2 hours. Their stress chemicals have gone down by 70% since Lucy touched them. More than that, their brain waves show they have imprinted on her." Daniel leaned forward. "Imprinted?" "Like baby birds. More complicated than birds. Much more." Helen made a hologram appear above the table. It showed brain patterns and connections. "Dragons have psychic powers, Captain. We knew that. What we did not know is how they make friendships. They do not just recognize family. They recognize treasure." "Treasure?" Greg's voice got louder. "My daughter is not something to be collected." "Not that kind of treasure," Helen said quickly. "In dragon culture, treasure means something precious to protect, something worth their loyalty. These cubs have chosen Lucy as their treasure. To them, she is the most important thing in the universe." As if to prove her words, Crystal spread her small wings over Lucy when a crew member walked past the cargo bay door. The blue dragon was protecting the girl from even the possibility of danger. Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. "The Galactic Council wants these cubs for study. We have orders." "Orders that did not expect this to happen," Helen argued. "Captain, if we take Lucy away from these cubs now, I do not know what they will do. The psychic backlash alone could be dangerous. For Lucy and for them." Greg stood up fast, his chair scraping the floor. "No, absolutely not. We are not using my daughter as some kind of dragon keeper. Nobody is saying that," Daniel said firmly. "But we need to understand what is happening." "Helen, what do the cubs want?" The doctor pulled up more data. "Based on their brain patterns and the psychic feelings they are sending out, it is simple. They want to stay with Lucy, they want to keep her safe, and they want to go home to their mother." "They can communicate that much?" Daniel asked, surprised. "Not in words, but in ideas and emotions, yes. Their mother's distress calls have been picked up by our long-range sensors. She is searching for them. The adult dragons are getting upset." Daniel thought for a long moment. Then he made a decision. "All right, new plan. We keep going to the research station, but Lucy stays with the cubs. Greg, you stay with her every moment. Helen, I want reports every hour on everyone's health, and someone get me a line to the council. They need to know what is happening." Down in the cargo bay, Lucy closed her book. Shadow had wrapped his tail around her. Ember rested his head in her lap. Crystal kept her wings spread, always watching. "Do not worry," Lucy whispered to them. "I will not let anyone hurt you." That is what friends do. They protect each other. The 3 cubs hummed together. It was a sound that felt old and powerful. In that moment, the small human girl and 3 dragon cubs became something new. A pack, a family. 3 days passed. The horizon reached Research Station Kepler 7. It was a huge floating station in space where human scientists studied alien life. Director Alan Pierce waited at the docking door with security guards. His face was not friendly. "Captain Brooks," Alan said coldly, "you are late." "Where are the specimens?" Daniel did not like the word specimens. "Director Pierce, we need to talk before anything happens." "The situation has changed." "Changed?" Alan's face got hard. "Captain, the Galactic Council has spent a lot of money on this. 3 dragon cubs are a chance to learn about one of the most powerful species in space. They are not specimens anymore," Daniel said. "They have bonded with a human child." Alan's eyes got big. "Bonded? Explain that." Inside the cargo bay, Lucy sat with her father and the 3 cubs. Helen was doing final health checks before they had to leave the ship. "How do you feel, sweetie?" Greg asked his daughter. She had dark circles under her eyes. "I am okay, Daddy," Lucy said, though she looked tired. "But Shadow says his mom is getting closer. He is worried." Helen's scanner made a beeping sound. "Captain, I am reading huge energy signals coming from the planet below. Multiple adult dragons moving fast." Daniel's voice came through the speaker. "All crew prepare for possible danger. This is not a drill." In the station's control room, Alan Pierce stared at the screen. He could not believe what he saw. 7 adult dragons, each as big as a small spaceship, were flying up from the planet Kepler 442c. They were heading right for the research station. "Battle stations," Alan ordered. "Turn on defensive shields." "Sir, they are not attacking," said Lieutenant Kelly Hudson. She was watching the tactical screen. "They are circling, like they are looking for something." Back on the horizon, Shadow suddenly lifted his head. His green scales began to glow. Crystal and Ember did the same. Their scales lit up the cargo bay in blue and gold light. "Lucy, get back," Helen warned, but the little girl did not move. "They are calling their mama," Lucy said. "They want her to know they are okay." The 3 cubs raised their heads at the same time. They made a cry that humans could not hear with their ears, but every machine picked it up. It was a psychic beacon, cutting through space itself. The biggest adult dragon, one with green scales like Shadow, suddenly changed direction. She flew straight toward the horizon. "Evasive action," Daniel ordered, but the dragon was too fast. She matched their speed easily. Her huge head turned to look through the ship's windows. Then she saw them. Her 3 babies glowing with their psychic light, and standing with them, a tiny human girl with her hand on Shadow's head. Greg grabbed Lucy, trying to pull her to safety. But Shadow's tail curled around the child's waist, holding her in place. The cub's message was clear. Lucy was under his protection. The mother dragon's eyes, old and knowing, looked at Lucy. The little girl felt a presence in her mind. It was vast and powerful, but gentle, testing her, questioning her. "I will not hurt them," Lucy said out loud, knowing somehow that the dragon could understand. "They are my friends. I love them." A wave of emotion washed over everyone in the cargo bay. Approval, gratitude, recognition. The mother dragon's voice filled their minds. It was not words, but pure meaning. "The small one has a dragon's heart. She is Peck. She is treasure," Helen gasped. Her scanner almost fell from her hands. "Captain, the adult dragon is making Lucy part of their family." "This is incredible." Alan Pierce's voice came through the speaker, angry and sharp. "Captain Brooks, you will give us those cubs immediately." "This is a council order." But before Daniel could answer, Shadow, Crystal, and Ember moved together. They formed a protective triangle around Lucy. Their scales flared with light. The mother dragon outside made a roar that shook the entire ship. It was a warning. "Director Pierce," Daniel said slowly, "I think you need to change your plans. These cubs will not leave without Lucy, and their mother will not leave without her cubs." "That is ridiculous," Alan shouted through the speaker. "We cannot let a child make decisions about intergalactic research." Lucy looked up at the massive dragon through the window. Then she looked at the 3 cubs around her. She felt their love, their loyalty, their complete determination to keep her safe. "Maybe," the 6-year-old said softly. "You should try asking nicely instead of trying to take them." The mother dragon rumbled her agreement. Her sound was like thunder. Daniel looked at Alan through the video screen. "Director, we have a first contact situation here. These are not animals. They are people. Intelligent, powerful people, and they have chosen to trust us because of one little girl. I suggest we honor that trust." Alan was quiet for a long time. His face showed he was thinking hard. Finally, he spoke. "Bring them to conference room 1. All of them, including the child. We need to talk about this." Greg held Lucy's hand as they walked through the station. The 3 cubs stayed close, one on each side and one behind. Station workers stopped and stared. Some looked scared. Some looked amazed. But nobody tried to get close. In the conference room, Alan Pierce saw Lucy for the first time. She was so small her feet did not even touch the floor when she sat in the chair, but she sat straight and calm with 3 dragon cubs around her like guards. "Miss Bennett," Alan said, trying to sound friendly, "do you understand what you are asking? These creatures need to be studied." Lucy tilted her head. The question she asked was simple. "Why?" Alan did not have a quick answer. Helen spoke instead. "To understand them. To learn about their abilities and their culture." "Why do not you just ask them?" Lucy said. "Shadow can show you things. He showed me about their home. It is beautiful." Alan leaned forward. "The cubs can share information?" "Not with words," Lucy explained patiently. "With pictures and feelings. Shadow says his people remember everything. Every dragon knows all the stories from all the dragons. 2 weeks had passed since the meeting at Research Station Kepler 7. The Galactic Council had approved a temporary alliance, but they wanted proof that humans could really help the dragons. Director Alan Pierce had assembled a team of the best scientists and doctors. Now they were preparing to visit the dragon homeworld. Lucy Bennett sat in her quarters on the horizon, brushing Crystal's blue scales. The dragon cub hummed happily, her eyes half closed. Shadow and Ember lay nearby, watching everything with alert eyes. "Do you think your mama will like me?" Lucy asked. Shadow lifted his head and sent her a feeling. Warmth, acceptance, love. "He says she already likes you," Greg Bennett said from the doorway. He had been watching his daughter with the cubs. Every day their bond seemed to grow stronger. It scared him sometimes, but he could not deny that Lucy was happy. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Of course, baby." "Why do some people want to study the dragons like they are things?" "Shadow and his sisters are not things. They think and feel just like us." Greg sat down next to his daughter. "Some people have trouble understanding that something different can still be equal. They see creatures that do not look human, and they forget to see the person inside." "That is silly," Lucy said firmly. "It does not matter what someone looks like on the outside. You are right, and maybe that is why the dragons chose you. You see what is important?" Dr. Helen Carter's voice came through the communication system. "All personnel, we will be entering Kepler 442c orbit in 30 minutes. Prepare for planetary landing." Lucy jumped up, excited. "We are going to see their home." The three cubs became alert, their scales beginning to glow softly. They were excited too. The planet Kepler 442c was beautiful. From space it looked green and blue, with white clouds swirling across its surface. Mountain ranges stretched across continents, and vast oceans sparkled in the light of the system's sun. Captain Daniel Brooks piloted the landing shuttle himself. Beside him sat Helen and Alan. Behind them, Lucy sat between her father and Lieutenant Jake Morrison. The three dragon cubs pressed against the windows, making small chirping sounds. "Approaching landing coordinates," Daniel announced. "The dragons have designated a safe zone for us." As they descended through the atmosphere, Lucy pressed her face to the window. Below she could see dragons flying. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They were huge, their wings spanning wider than the shuttle. Their scales reflected the sunlight in every color imaginable. "Look at them all," Jake whispered, amazed. The shuttle landed in a wide valley between two mountains. The door opened and warm air rushed in. It smelled like pine trees and flowers, with a hint of something spicy that Lucy could not name. Shadow was first out of the shuttle. He spread his wings and called out a high sound full of joy. Crystal and Ember followed, adding their voices to his. Then the sky filled with dragons. They came from everywhere, landing around the shuttle in a wide circle. Some were as big as buildings. Others were smaller, maybe only the size of cars. Their scales showed every color Lucy had ever seen, and some she had not. Greg pulled Lucy behind him, protective. The security team raised their weapons. "Stand down," Daniel ordered. "Nobody fires unless I give the command." The largest dragon landed directly in front of them. She was massive, her green scales shining like emeralds in the sunlight. This was Shadow's mother. Lucy knew it without being told. Shadow, Crystal, and Ember ran to their mother. She lowered her great head and touched each cub gently with her snout. The sound she made was like a song, full of relief and love. Then her eyes found Lucy. The little girl stepped out from behind her father. "Hello," she said, her voice small but clear. "My name is Lucy. I took care of your babies. I hope that was okay." The mother dragon moved toward her. Each step made the ground shake. Greg started to reach for Lucy, but Helen touched his arm and shook her head. They had to trust the cub's judgment. The dragon lowered her head until she was eye level with Lucy. The child reached out and placed her small hand on the dragon's snout. It felt warm and smooth, like polished stone. Into Lucy's mind came a voice, deep and ancient. "You protected my children when they were afraid. You gave them comfort when they were alone. You have my gratitude, small one. You have my friendship." "You are welcome," Lucy said out loud. "They are wonderful. Shadow is brave, Crystal is wise, and Ember is kind." The mother dragon made a rumbling sound that might have been a laugh. "You see clearly? Yes, that is who they are, and now you are family. Any who harm you will answer to me." Around the circle, the other dragons rumbled their agreement. It sounded like thunder rolling across the valley. Alan Pierce stepped forward cautiously. "Great One, we have come to help if you will allow it." Your children showed us that your eggs are in danger. The mother dragon turned her gaze to him. Her eyes were hard. You are the one who wanted to keep my children in cages. Alan's face went pale, but to his credit he did not back down. Yes, I was wrong. I saw them as specimens to study, not as people. Your daughter's friendship with Lucy Bennett taught me better. The dragon studied him for a long moment. Then at least you can admit your mistakes. That is more than many of your kind would do. Come, I will show you the nesting grounds. The humans followed the dragons deeper into the valley. Lucy rode on Shadow's back, laughing with delight as he walked. Crystal and Ember stayed close, their eyes always watching for danger. They came to a huge cave entrance carved into the mountainside. Inside, the walls glowed with crystals that gave off soft light. The temperature was warm, perfect for eggs, but something was wrong. Lucy could feel it even before she saw the eggs. A sadness filled the cave, heavy and thick. In carefully made nests lay dozens of dragon eggs. They were beautiful, their shells gleaming with color. But many of them were dark, their colors faded. They looked sick. Helen immediately pulled out her scanning equipment. She moved from nest to nest, taking readings. Her face grew more concerned with each scan. Captain, I am detecting the toxin I theorized about. It is in the water supply, just like I thought. But it is worse than my models predicted. If we do not act fast, this entire clutch will be lost. A female dragon, smaller than Shadow's mother but still huge, lay beside one of the dark nests. Her eyes were full of grief. These are my eggs. 5 of them, only 2 still live. Lucy climbed down from Shadow's back and walked to the grieving mother. We will help you, I promise. Helen worked quickly, explaining to Alan and Daniel what needed to be done. We need to set up filtration systems at every water source the dragons use. We need to treat the eggs that are still viable with a special enzyme that will break down the toxin.
And we need to do it fast. How fast?
Daniel asked. We have maybe 3 weeks before it is too late for the eggs that can still be saved. Alan was already on his communication device, talking to the research station. I am authorizing emergency resources. Get every available team down here. And contact the Earth Council. Tell them we need additional supplies and personnel immediately. Over the next few days, the valley became a hub of activity. Human scientists and engineers worked alongside dragons. The dragons used their strength to move heavy equipment. The humans used their technology to filter water and treat eggs. Lucy spent her time with Shadow, Crystal, and Ember, moving between the different work sites. The cubs had become ambassadors of sorts, helping humans and dragons understand each other. Shadow says the red dragon over there is named Crimson. Lucy would translate. He wants to know if the water filter is working. Or, Crystal says her aunt is worried about the eggs near the hot springs. Can Dr. Carter check them? Helen was amazed at how smoothly things were working. Lucy, you are doing an incredible job. Without you, this would be taking 3 times as long. Shadow and his sisters are doing the work, Lucy said modestly. I am just talking. But it was more than that, and everyone knew it. Lucy had become the bridge that made cooperation possible. One evening, as the sun set over the mountains, Lucy sat with Shadow's mother on a cliff overlooking the valley. Below, humans and dragons worked together, their differences forgotten in their common goal. Will the eggs be okay? Lucy asked. The mother dragon was quiet for a moment. Thanks to your people, yes. Many will survive who would have died. You have saved the future of our species. We are friends now, Lucy said simply. Friends help each other. The dragon made that rumbling laugh sound again. Simple wisdom from a simple heart. Perhaps that is what the galaxy needs more of. Shadow, Crystal, and Ember joined them on the cliff. They curled around Lucy, keeping her warm as the air grew cool. I will miss you when we have to go, Lucy admitted. You are my best friends. Shadow sent her a feeling. Distance means nothing to those who are bonded. We will always be connected. Always be family. Down in the valley, Greg watched his daughter sitting with the 4 dragons. Jake Morrison stood beside him. She is something special, your daughter, Jake said. She is just Lucy, Greg replied. She just sees what others miss. That everyone deserves kindness no matter how different they are. The galaxy could use more people like her. The galaxy could use more people like those dragons too, Greg said. They could have attacked us, blamed us for taking their children. Instead, they gave us a chance to May. 3 weeks had passed on the dragon homeworld. The valley had transformed into a place where 2 species worked side by side. Human engineers had built water filtration systems across the mountain range. Dragon scouts had mapped every water source and nesting site. Together, they were saving a generation of dragon cubs. Lucy Bennett sat in the main cave watching Dr. Helen Carter examine the eggs. The shells that had been dark and lifeless now glowed with healthy color. Inside them, baby dragons were growing strong. "Lucy, come look at this," Helen called, her voice excited. The little girl hurried over. Through a special scanner, she could see inside one of the eggs. A tiny dragon cub was moving, stretching its wings. "Is it ready to hatch?" Lucy asked. "Soon. Maybe in a few days. And this one would not have survived without our help," Helen said. Her eyes were bright with happiness. Shadow, Crystal, and Ember stood beside Lucy, watching the egg with interest. They hummed softly, a sound that seemed to soothe the baby inside. "They are singing to it," Lucy explained to Helen. "They are telling it that the world is safe, that it is loved." Helen smiled. "You understand them so well now." "They are my family," Lucy said simply. Outside the cave, Captain Daniel Brooks and Director Alan Pierce were meeting with a council of elder dragons. Shadow's mother, who Lucy had learned was named Skyfire, led the council. Beside her sat dragons of every color, each one ancient and wise. "The eggs are recovering," Daniel reported. "Dr. Carter believes we will have a 95% survival rate for this clutch." "That is far better than we hoped." Skyfire's voice filled their minds. "You have honored your promises, Captain Brooks. You came to help, not to conquer. You treated our children with respect, not as things to be owned." "We have learned much from this experience," Alan added. "About your species, yes, but more importantly about how we approach first contact. Lucy has been an exceptional teacher." A smaller dragon, his scales the color of sunset, spoke. "The hatchling you call Lucy has wisdom beyond her years. She sees with her heart, not just her eyes. It is a rare gift. She is special," Daniel agreed. "But she is also just a child. My concern is what happens next. The Galactic Council wants to establish permanent relations with your people. They want treaties, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and they want Lucy to be part of it." Skyfire's eyes narrowed. "The hatchling is young. She should not carry such weight on her small shoulders." "I agree completely," Daniel said, "which is why I'm asking for your guidance. How do we build this alliance without putting too much pressure on a 6-year-old? The Council of Dragons was quiet, thinking. Finally, an old blue dragon spoke. His scales were pale with age, but his eyes were sharp. "We must find others who can form bonds as the hatchling Lucy has done. Not to replace her, but to join her. A bridge built on one stone is weak. A bridge built on many stones is strong." "But the cubs told Lucy that bonding is difficult," Alan said. "That adult humans think too loudly, too harshly for dragons to connect with easily." "That is true for most," the old dragon agreed. "But not all. There are humans with quiet minds. Humans who feel deeply. Artists, dreamers. Children, yes, but also those who have kept their child's heart even as they grew." Helen, who had been listening through her communication device, spoke up. "I think I understand. We need to find people who are naturally empathetic, who think in emotions and images rather than just words. People who can meet the dragons halfway." "Exactly," Skyfire confirmed. "And we must find young dragons who are willing to try. Like my children, there are others who are curious about humans, who are not afraid to reach out." "A bonding program," Daniel said, thinking out loud. "Voluntary on both sides. Carefully supervised. Starting small." Alan nodded. "I can propose this to the council, but we will need Lucy's input. She has more experience with dragon bonding than anyone." Down by the river, Lucy sat with her feet in the cool water. Shadow lay beside her, his green scales warm in the sunlight. Crystal and Ember were playing in the shallows, splashing each other and making happy chirping sounds. Greg Bennett sat on the bank, watching his daughter. She looked peaceful, more at ease than she had been since her mother died. The dragons had healed something in Lucy, filled a space that had been empty and hurting. "Daddy, can I ask you something serious?" Lucy said, not looking at him. "Always." "The grown-ups are talking about me, are they not? About what happens when we go home." Greg was surprised. "How did you know?" "Shadow told me. Not with words, but I felt his worry. He is scared that they will try to make me do too much, that they will turn our friendship into work." Greg moved to sit beside his daughter. "What do you want, Lucy? If you could choose anything, what would make you happy?" Lucy thought for a long moment, watching Crystal and Ember play. "I want to stay friends with Shadow and his sisters." I want to visit them and have them visit me, but I do not want to be some special important person. I am just Lucy. I just want to be a kid who has dragon friends. That sounds perfect to me, Greg said, hugging his daughter, and I will make sure that is what happens. That evening, there was a meeting in the newly built Human-Dragon Cooperation Center. It was a simple building, half cave and half human construction. Inside, humans and dragons gathered. Lucy stood at the front of the room, looking tiny compared to the dragons around her. But she was not scared. Shadow, Crystal, and Ember stood with her, their presence giving her confidence. "Hello, everyone," Lucy began. "Captain Brooks asked me to talk about bonding with dragons, so I will try my best." She looked at Shadow, who sent her encouragement. When I first met Shadow and his sisters, I was not trying to do anything special. I just saw that they were scared and I wanted to help. I did not think about them being aliens or powerful or different. I just thought they needed a friend. A young dragon, barely bigger than the cubs, raised her head. "How did you not fear us? Humans usually fear what they do not understand." "I was a little scared at first," Lucy admitted. "But then Shadow let me feel what he was feeling. He was more scared than me, so I decided we could be scared together, and that made it less scary." Laughter rippled through the room, both human and dragon. "The important thing is listening," Lucy continued. "Not just with your ears, but with your heart. Shadow does not talk with words, but I always know what he means. And he knows what I mean, too." Dr. Helen Carter stood up. "Lucy, can you explain what it feels like when Shadow communicates with you?" "It is like music," Lucy said, trying to find the right words. "Or like colors. He shows me pictures and gives me feelings. When he is happy, I feel warm. When he is worried, I feel tingly. It is different from talking, but it is just as clear." An older human man, one of the linguists on the team, spoke up. "But surely there is more to it than that. The psychic connection must require some kind of mental discipline or training." Lucy looked confused. "I do not know about that. I just pay attention. If you want to understand someone, you have to really pay attention to them." Skyfire made a rumbling sound that was definitely laughter. "From the mouths of hatchlings comes wisdom." She is right. The bond forms not through technique, but through genuine openness and care. Alan Pierce took notes on his tablet. "So we are looking for humans who are naturally empathetic and attentive, who approach others with care rather than suspicion, and dragons who are curious and brave enough to try," Skyfire added. "Not all of my kind are ready to trust humans, just as not all humans are ready to trust dragons. But those who are willing should have the chance." Over the next few days, volunteers came forward. On the human side, there were artists, teachers, counselors, and yes, a few more children. On the dragon side, young adult dragons and adolescent cubs stepped up, curious about these strange beings who had saved their eggs. Lucy helped with the initial meetings. She would sit with a nervous human and an uncertain dragon, showing them how to be calm and open. "Do not try to force it," she would say. "Just sit quietly. Let the dragon feel that you are safe. Let yourself feel that the dragon is safe. The rest will happen naturally." It did not work with everyone. Some people could not quiet their minds enough. Some dragons could not overcome their distrust. But slowly, carefully, other bonds began to form. A young woman named Sophie, who taught music to children, bonded with a copper-colored dragon named Melody. Their connection was deep, built on their shared love of sound and rhythm. A quiet man named Carlos, who worked with plants, bonded with a green dragon named Forest. They communicated through images of growing things and the feel of earth and leaf. 3 more children, ranging from 7 to 10 years old, each bonded with young dragon cubs. The cubs were from different families, all curious about humans. "It is working," Helen said to Daniel as they watched the new bonded pairs interact. "We are creating a real foundation for long-term cooperation." "Thanks to Lucy," Daniel replied. "She showed us the way." But Lucy herself was not thinking about foundations or cooperation. She was just playing with Shadow, Crystal, and Ember by the river, throwing sticks for them to catch in the air. These were the last days before the Horizon would return to space. Lucy knew that soon she would have to say goodbye to the dragon homeworld. But Shadow had promised her that this was not an ending. "We will see each other again," Shadow told her. "You are my treasure and I am yours. Distance cannot break what we have built." "I know," Lucy said, hugging his neck. But 6 months had passed since the Horizon left the dragon homeworld. Lucy Bennett stood in her classroom on Earth trying to focus on her math lesson. But her mind kept wandering to the stars, to a green valley between mountains where 3 dragon cubs were growing strong. "Lucy, can you answer question 5? Her teacher asked. Lucy blinked and looked at her paper. Is it 12? Yes, that is correct. The teacher smiled, but her eyes showed concern. Lucy had been distracted ever since she returned from space. At recess, Lucy sat under a tree by herself. The other children played, but she did not join them. How could she explain to them what it was like to have dragon friends? They would never understand. She looked at the mark on her left hand. 3 dragon silhouettes still visible after all this time. Sometimes when she concentrated, she could feel Shadow, Crystal, and Ember through the bond. They were far away, but they were there. "Hey, Lucy!" A boy named Kevin ran up to her. "Is it true you went to space and met real dragons?" "Yes," Lucy said quietly. "That is so cool." "What were they like?" "They were wonderful," Lucy said. "They were my friends." Kevin looked at her strangely. "Friends with dragons? That is weird." He ran off to tell the other children. Lucy sighed. This was why she did not talk about it at school. That afternoon, Greg Bennett picked up his daughter. He saw the sadness in her eyes immediately. "Rough day?" he asked. "The other kids think I am weird," Lucy said. "They do not understand about Shadow and the others. I know it is hard, baby. But Captain Brooks called today. He has some news that might cheer you up." Lucy's eyes got bright. "What news?" "The Galactic Council approved the cultural exchange program. Shadow, Crystal, and Ember are coming to Earth for a visit. They will be here next week," Lucy squealed with joy louder than she had in months. "Really? They are really coming?" "Really. And there is more. 3 other bonded dragon pairs are coming too. The Council wants to show Earth what the Alliance looks like." For the first time in months, Lucy smiled a real smile. The day the dragons arrived, half of Earth was watching. Every news station covered the event. Ships from every nation waited in orbit as a massive dragon transport vessel entered Earth's space. Lucy stood at the landing site with her father. Dr. Helen Carter and Captain Daniel Brooks were there too. Director Alan Pierce had flown in from the research station, bringing the other bonded humans with him. Sophie, the music teacher, bonded to Melody, stood nearby. Carlos, bonded to Forrest, waited quietly. 3 other children, all bonded to dragon cubs, bounced with excitement. The transport landed and its doors opened. Shadow was first out and Lucy gasped. He had grown so much. He was now the size of a horse, his green scales shining brilliantly in the sunlight. Crystal and Ember followed, equally magnificent in their growth. "Shadow!" Lucy shouted, running to him. The dragon made a joyful sound and bounded toward her. They met in the middle, and Shadow wrapped his tail around her gently. Crystal and Ember joined them, all 3 dragons humming with happiness. "I missed you, little treasure," Shadow's voice filled Lucy's mind. "Every day I missed you." "I missed you too," Lucy said, tears running down her face. "So much." The reunion was broadcast around the world. Millions of people watched as a small human girl and 3 dragons showed what true friendship looked like. Over the next few days, the dragons adapted to Earth. A special area had been prepared for them near a national park. They had caves to sleep in and open sky to fly through. Human guards kept away curious people who might disturb them. But the dragons were just as curious about humans. They wanted to see cities and schools and oceans. They wanted to understand this world that their bonded friends came from. Lucy took Shadow, Crystal, and Ember to her school. The principal had approved it, though she was nervous. What if something went wrong? But Shadow understood that he had to be careful. When he entered the school gymnasium where all the students had gathered, he moved slowly and kept his wings folded tight. Lucy stood in front of her classmates. "This is Shadow," she said. "He is my friend. He came from very far away to visit. He cannot talk with words, but he can share feelings. If you stay calm and open, he might share with you too." Kevin, the boy who had called her weird, raised his hand. "Can I meet him?" "Shadow, is it okay?" Lucy asked. The dragon lowered his head to the boy's level. Kevin reached out carefully and touched Shadow's snout. His eyes went wide. "I can feel him," Kevin whispered. "He is not scary at all. He is curious. He wants to know about me." One by one, the children came forward. Shadow was patient with each one, showing them brief images of his world and feeling their wonder in return. By the end of the day, Lucy was no longer the weird girl. She was the amazing girl who had dragon friends. But more importantly, her classmates were learning the same lesson Lucy had learned. That being different was not something to fear. At the United Nations building in New York, the Galactic Council had called a special meeting. Humans, dragons, and representatives from a dozen other species gathered to witness something historic. Ambassador Chen from the United Earth Council stood at the podium. Today we formalize an alliance that began with 3 cubs and 1 child. The Human-Dragon Friendship Accord. Skyfire, who had come to Earth for this moment, stood beside the stage. Her massive presence awed everyone in the room. For too long, Ambassador Chen continued, first contact between species has been about caution and distance. We study each other from far away, afraid to truly connect. But Lucy Bennett and Shadow showed us a better way. They showed us that friendship is possible, even between beings as different as humans and dragons. Alan Pierce, now the official liaison for human-dragon relations, spoke next. This accord establishes permanent cultural exchange, joint scientific research, and mutual defense. But more than that, it establishes a principle that when we meet new species, we will approach them first with open hearts, not raised weapons. The room erupted in applause. Lucy, sitting in the front row with Shadow beside her, felt proud. They had done this. Their friendship had changed the galaxy, but the best moment came later after all the speeches and ceremonies were done. Lucy and the other bonded humans took their dragon friends to Central Park. It was evening, and the park was closed to the public for this event. But hundreds of people watched from outside the gates as dragons and humans played together. Shadow, Crystal, and Ember flew through the air, performing graceful loops and dives. Lucy watched from the ground, laughing with joy. Then Shadow landed beside her. "Climb on, little treasure. It is time." "Really? You are big enough now?" Lucy asked. "I promised I would carry you through the clouds. I keep my promises." Lucy climbed onto Shadow's back, holding onto the ridges of his scales. Shadow spread his wings and began to run. Then, with powerful strokes, he lifted into the air. Lucy had been in spaceships before, but this was different. This was flying. She felt the wind in her hair and the rhythm of Shadow's wings. The city spread out below them, lights beginning to twinkle as darkness fell. Higher and higher they went until they were among the clouds. Crystal and Ember joined them, flanking them on either side. "This is how dragons see the world," Shadow told her. "From above, everything looks small. But that does not mean it is not important. Every small thing, every small person matters. Like how 1 small girl and 3 small dragon cubs changed everything," Lucy asked. "Exactly like that." They flew for an hour, watched by millions of people on the ground and around the world. It was a sight nobody would forget. A human child and a dragon flying together in perfect trust. When they finally landed, Lucy's father hugged her tight. "How was it?" "It was perfect," Lucy said. "It was like coming home." Over the next few months, the alliance grew stronger. More bonding pairs formed. Dragons visited Earth regularly, and humans visited the dragon homeworld. Technology was shared. Dragons taught humans about psychic abilities and energy manipulation. Humans taught dragons about advanced engineering and medicine. But the most important exchange was cultural. Dragons learned human music and art. Humans learned dragon history and philosophy. Schools on Earth started teaching about dragon culture. Dragon hatchlings learned about human history. A new generation was growing up knowing that the universe was full of friends, not just strangers. Lucy continued to visit Shadow regularly. Sometimes he came to Earth. Sometimes she traveled to his world. But distance no longer mattered. The bond they shared kept them connected. On Lucy's 8th birthday, Shadow and his sisters brought her a gift. It was a crystal from their homeworld, one that glowed with inner light. "It is beautiful," Lucy said, holding it carefully. "It is a memory stone," Shadow explained. "Every dragon who touches it leaves a memory inside. I have put my memories of you there. Crystal and Ember have too, and my mother, and all the dragons you helped save." Lucy held the stone to her heart. She could feel the love inside it, warm and eternal. "Thank you," she whispered. "This is the best gift ever." Later that night, as Lucy lay in bed holding her memory stone, she thought about everything that had happened. A year ago, she had been a sad little girl who had lost her mother and felt alone in the world. Then 3 dragon cubs had come into her life. Cubs,